afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. It is time for EFL Transfer Zone here on the channel. We are edging ever closer now till that September the 1st deadline. Lots of transfer rumours across the EFL and done deals over the last few days. We're going to be discussing on today's show. My name is Sam Rourke, the Chief Editor of Football League World.co.uk. I'm joined by two of my colleagues as ever, Ben Wignall and Toby Wilding. Ben, how are you getting on this afternoon?
Yeah, I'm all right. Only got into bed at 1 a.m. last night due to my trip to Molineux to watch PNE put a valiant effort against Wolves in the Carabao Cup. But yeah, looking forward to looking at some transfers again. Only, I think, 8 days now till the end of the window. Things are definitely heating up in the EFL and the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. Toby, how you getting on?
Yeah, good, thanks. Wasn't quite such a late one after a trip to Valley Parade for me, but can never sleep after a midweek game anyway, so... yeah, there's always that to factor in, but no, doing good. And as Ben says, you know, the end of the window really does start to creep up on you. It almost sort of comes out of nowhere, and yeah, things are really going to start livening up now, hopefully. So it should be good to talk about a few of the deals.
Yeah, for sure. If you haven't seen EFL Transfer Zone here on Football League World TV before, we essentially run through some of the done deals that have happened over the last few days, and then touch on all the EFL transfer rumours in the second half of the show. Right, let's get going. Just a quick reminder, we are broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Get your comments in. We want to hear from you. Right, let's start off with a done deal. Watford have completed the signing of Kortney Hause on loan from Aston Villa. He is the second Villa player to join Rob Edwards' side this summer. Keenan Davis has also joined the Vicarage Road club. There was a need for a new centre-back at Watford. They've signed that in Kortney Hause now. Ben, let's come to you then. Kortney Hause hasn't had much game time over the last few seasons. Only 7 appearances in the Premier League last term for Steven Gerrard's side. For Watford, do you think this is a good addition?
I think it is, yeah. I think it's understandable as to why he's not had the kind of game time in the Premier League. Obviously, Ezri Konsa and Tyrone Mings are the main partnership at Aston Villa, and they have been for the last couple of years. But he's definitely got a lot of experience at Championship level, you know, for Wolves and for Villa. I think Watford have needed a left-sided centre-back. I think it's important in these back threes when managers are playing the three at the back. There's a bit of balance in that team with a left footer, and I think that's what Watford have needed, obviously. They've got Christian Cabasele, Craig Cathcart and Sierra Alter as the back three at the minute. And whilst that is a very solid back three Championship level, it's got plenty of Premier League experience. I think, you know, for one thing, the lack in depth. I think William Truster-Kong's been linked with move away, but also none of those are really left-footed and can, you know, play the ball like that House does. So he can slot into that back three on the left-hand side and give Rob Edwards the kind of balance he needs. And obviously he's worked with him before, being a coach at Wolves, so it's I think it's a deal that makes sense for all parties, and if he impresses, I expect it to probably be made into a permanent deal next summer.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for House to show what he's all about, because it's been a tough few years for him in terms of his opportunities in first-team football. Toby, let's get your thoughts then on the Kortney Hause deal. I mean, is he someone you view as a guaranteed starter in Rob Edwards' 11 now?
Yeah, I think he does sort of have to be pushing for that place, doesn't it? I mean, that's obviously going to be what he's come to Vicarage Road with the aim of doing after what has been, as we were touching on there, sort of quite a frustrating time for him in terms of his opportunities at Villa that haven't exactly been forthcoming. So I do think that sort of makes this a good move for him. And there is a few similarities with how he started out with Villa, isn't there, in terms of making the move on loan to a side who, as Villa were at the time when he signed him, will be targeting promotion from the Championship this season. So that is certainly a situation that should suit him. I think, again, as you mentioned, the fact that Keenan Davis is already there from Villa, that surely is only going to help him in terms of settling in. And I think, yeah, as we say, with what he did for Villa and Wolves in the Championship in the past, he's someone who Watford should certainly be trusting in that position. And I think as well, you sort of look at some of the options Watford have got at the minute. They are perhaps, heading towards that latter stage of their career. So maybe someone at that sort of age that Hause is coming in, maybe in his sort of peak years, is useful to have in that respect as well for Watford. So yeah, for me, it definitely does look like a good deal, and one where Hause should probably be able to thrive again after a bit of a tough time at Villa Park.
Yeah, Craig Cathcart is, of course, 33 years old now, so it's important to have options in what is a long, arduous championship campaign, and Hause will certainly bring that. Any Watford fans watching this, let us know your thoughts on the addition of Kortney Hause. Are you pleased to see him arrive at Vicarage Road? Right, let's move on to another done deal that's occurred over the last few days, and that is that Rotherham have completed the signing of Brooke Norton-Cuffy on loan from Arsenal. The 18-year-old is no stranger to the EFL. He enjoyed an impressive loan stint at Sincil Bank with Lincoln at the back end of last season. Really, really impressed for the Imps. Only 18 years old. He'll provide competition for Lee Peltier and Wes Harding in Paul Warne's right-back slot. Ben, Norton-Cuffy's been linked with a number of championship clubs this summer, including your very own Preston North End. Rotherham are the team that have signed him. What are your thoughts on the deal?
Well, for one, PNE were linked with him, and he was one of the players that was really high on my shortlist to go in and compete with Brad Potts. I'm slightly annoyed that he's gone elsewhere, but it doesn't seem as though our initial interest was followed up. And if he did have a choice of, a lot of championship clubs, then it's an interesting one to go to Rotherham. I know they've done dealings with Arsenal before. I think they signed Talaji Bowler from them. He's not really had too much game time, but I think it's clear that Arsenal clearly trust Rotherham with Norton-Cuffy of the sending him there. He looked very impressive at Lincoln last season under Michael Appleton, a good ball carrier, strong and quick, and he's clearly progressing very quickly. He was in the England under-19 squad that won the European Championships this summer. He played 5 times, I think, so he was a regular for them. And Arsenal fans, I think it's always a good sign when they want a player like Norton-Cuffy sticking around. They think they've wanted him as backup to the options they've got right now, but they've chosen to send him out on loan. I think that's the best thing for his game time. And when Peter Kioso comes back from his injury, I think he's out for about 2 months. It'll be strong competition Norton-Cuffy has, but I think Arsenal will be sending him to Paul Warne side in probably the case that he will get regular minutes. So I think it's a good signing for Rotherham. I think it frees up Ogbene as well to be a permanent kind of forward now. He was playing a lot at right wing back last season, but I think he's now been freed up to kind of play in the front too, and I think that's a good role for him, because that could be a good link up between Ogbene and Norton-Cuffy. I think last night he made his debut against Morecambe. I've looked at the stats. He's completed 4 of his 5 attempted dribbles, so that's the kind of player he is. He'll look to bomb down the right-hand side and make things happen. So I think it's a very exciting signing for Rotherham. Only 18 as well. It's kind of not unheard of that 18-year-old wing-backs come to the Championship, but Norton-Cuffy seemingly very highly rated, and it'll be interesting to see how he develops. Yeah,
like you say, Norton-Cuffy not afraid to bomb forward down that right flank from defence, so should be contributing in an attacking sense as well, you feel. Any Millers fans watching this, are you happy to see Norton-Cuffy arrive on a season-long loan deal until the end of the season? Right, one more done deal to touch on next. Sheffield Wednesday have finally completed the signing of Mallik Wilks from Hull City. This has been a transfer saga that sort of rumbled on for months over the summer, but it's finally happened. He's the 10th player to arrive at Hillsborough this summer. Wilks has been playing in the Championship last season. 3 goals he scored for the Tigers last term, but he's joined up with Darren Moore's Wednesday. Toby, let's come to you. Wilks is a versatile option, isn't he, that can operate in an array of attacking roles. What are your thoughts on this then from a Wednesday perspective? A good signing?
Yeah, it does look like a good signing for me. I think for all parties, it was one that needed to happen, really. It seemed like things had sort of taken a bit of a downward turn for Wilks at Hull for one reason or another. It didn't seem to be working out for him there anymore. So I think certainly from his perspective, it made sense to get this sort of move, and it's obviously a big opportunity now for him to kick on and become a key player again at a team who will be looking to get back up to the Championship. He should be able to contribute to that when you consider what he previously did for Hull in League One the season before last. So that does make this a very exciting deal. I think, given how long Wednesday have been chasing this, to sort of finally make sure it gets over the line is going to be a big relief for them. And, given how much interest there was and how keen it seemed Wilks himself was to come, judging by the reports, I think there might have been a few questions asked of Wednesday had they not been able to get this over the line. And as you say, I think the fact that he does have that versatility, again, he's going to be important both for Wednesday in terms of the options it provides them with, but also for Wilks himself in terms of getting that game time at Hillsborough, because they do have a lot of options at centre forward right now with the likes of Smith when he comes back, Lee Gregory, Callum Patterson, Silasau still there. So there's plenty of competition for Wilks. So the fact that he can sort of play in that variety of positions will certainly help him in terms of ensuring he can still make that impact and get the game time he's going to be wanting. Although obviously it's going to be interesting to see how that sort of fits in with the 3-5-2 formation that Wednesday have been using so far this season, and that you feel they're going to want to stick with, given sort of how well they have started the campaign in that formation.
Yeah, you get the feeling that Wilks will play quite a pivotal role this season, just going off how persistent Sheffield Wednesday were over the summer to try and get this deal over the line. Obviously, the first sort of links emerged 3-4 months ago now, and the deal's finally happened. So it'll be an interesting one to watch for sure. Any Wednesday fans watching, let us know your thoughts on the addition of Mallik Wilks. Is he someone you can see being thrusted straight into Darren Moore's starting 11? Let us know. Right, let's look at some of the latest EFL done deals. Let's now look at some of the latest EFL transfer rumours. Of course, there's only one place to start right now, and that is to do with the situation with Joao Pedro. He has been a man very much in demand over the last week or so. Newcastle are preparing a new £30 million offer for the Brazilian attacker this week, if reports are to be believed. But they're not alone in that interest. Everton, Leeds and Aston Villa have also been linked with a move for Joao Pedro between now and the end of the summer transfer window. We understand Watford want £35 million to sell Joao Pedro. Newcastle haven't met that just yet, but we have to wait and see if that does happen. Ben, let's come to you first. What do you make of the whole Joao Pedro situation right now? Are you expecting the Brazilian to depart Vicarage Road in the next few days?
I think it's probably more likely than not he will depart. I'm not entirely sure what Watford's cash flow situations like. I know they have sold Kamara to Udinese, who are also owned by the Pozzo family. So I think that was hinted at there's something to do with Watford cash issue. So do they need to sell Pedro maybe? And I think the clubs that are now said to be linked, I think it's been reported that Everton are set to match whatever Newcastle have offered for Pedro. I think it's more likely than not he will depart due to all the interest. I think it also depends if Pedro tries to force a move. I think it's a fair enough price as well. He's only scored 3 goals in the Premier League last season. I think he signed in January 2020. Didn't get much time in his first half season to really make an impact, and he scored on the opening day against Sheffield United of this season. So he has looked in his couple of games that he has played. He has got that quality to step up to the Premier League, but he's only 20 years old, so he's got a lot of learning left. And I think at a club like Newcastle, who've been linked, they're obviously getting Alexander Isaac in now from Real Sociedad, but Pedro's not just a player who can play up front. He can play off the left or right. He can play the number 10 as well. So I can see why Newcastle are going in for him very heavily. He can play in a number of different positions, and I think on paper, front three, Pedro, Isaac, and Alan Saint-Maximin could be very exciting. But obviously, they do have to get the right structure in place for the deal. But I think if Newcastle really do want to make it happen, they've easily got the tools to make it happen.
Yeah, it sounds like Joao Pedro is also keen on the move. You could possibly see why there is as I said last week, quite a strong Brazilian contingent at Newcastle right now. Joel Linton and Bruno Guimarães there at the moment. Well, there we go. That is the latest with Joao Pedro. Newcastle preparing a £30 million bid for the Brazilian forward. As I said, though, lots of interest from other Premier League clubs as well. Everton, Leeds and Villa also being credited with an interest in Joao Pedro. Let's talk Ben Brereton Diaz. He is attracting strong interest from Everton now. It sounds like the Toffees are in pole position to sign the Chilean international between now and September the 1st. £15 million is the minimum that the Venkies reportedly want for Brereton Diaz. Toby, let's naturally come to you. What are your thoughts on Brereton Diaz's situation, and more importantly, this Everton interest that has emerged today?
I think it does sort of feel probably more and more like a movie's going to happen. I think certainly even now there is a need for Everton to bring in attacking options, and certainly that will be enhanced if Anthony Gordon does go to Chelsea, and so with the talk there sounding like he wants to go, and Chelsea are going to spend £60 million on him, which is an incredible fee, but that's another issue. It does mean that Everton should certainly have the money there to meet that asking price that Blackburn have set for Brereton Diaz, especially when you consider the Richarlison money they've got as well. So I don't think there's any doubt that, as I say, the Toffees will be able to pay up if they want to do that for Brereton Diaz. It sounds as well like he's keen on the move. You can certainly understand that from his perspective. He wants to play top flight football. That's a big opportunity for him to do that at a high level. And I think even if, as we were sort of touching on there, Everton being one of the clubs interested in Joao Pedro, for me that wouldn't sort of put the spanner in the works or put a hurdle in front of this move being done, because as I say, Everton needed strikers even before the Gordon situation emerged with the Richarlison departure. Calvert-Lewin still out injured if Gordon goes as well. That's a lot of players that they need to replace. So there would certainly look to me to be room for, say, both for Joao Pedro and the Brereton Diaz to move into their squad. So it definitely wouldn't surprise me if that happened from Everton's perspective. And as I've said plenty of times before, from a Blackburn point of view as well, they badly need signings right now in several areas. I think you only need to look at Tyler Morton playing centre-back last night at Bradford to see, in order to give 17-year-old Ashley Phillips a rest, to see how badly centre-backs are needed. So the Brereton Diaz money would really sort of change the dynamic of the final week of the window for them, I think, in terms of what the possibilities it opens up in terms of signings. So certainly for Rovers as well, it's one that it almost feels quite important now that it happens, given how sort of slow they have been in terms of bringing players in. So I think from the perspective of all parties, it would seem like it could be one that makes sense. So again, it wouldn't massively surprise me if this did eventually end up going through. And I think in that case, it would probably suit everyone if it happened as quick as possible. Then, deals can get done while there's enough time for the subsequent replacements and whatnot to be brought in at Ewood Park.
Yeah, I think this sounds like a case of when and not if now with Ben Brereton Diaz. I think the interest is mounting now. And at that reported £15 million price tag, I think that could be a bit of a coup for whatever Premier League club do manage to sign him for that sort of sum of money. Any Rovers fans watching this, let us know your thoughts on Ben Brereton Diaz's current situation. Everton are leading the race to sign Brereton Diaz before that September the 1st deadline. We're going to run through a couple of Football League World exclusives. This is information we've heard over the last few days. We understand there is a lot of EFL interest in AFC Bournemouth attacker Jamal Lowe. Lowe struggled to really embed himself into Scott Parker's first team thoughts this season and last season in the Championship, he was often used as an impact sub. We understand Watford are leading the chase to sign Jamal Lowe in this summer transfer window. Norwich, Sunderland and Burnley have also engaged in talks with Jamal Lowe's camp. But as we understand, it is the Hornets that lead the chase right now. Ben, Jamal Lowe's had a bit of a tough time, I suppose, at Bournemouth over the last season or two, not getting frequent game time. We know what he can do, though, at this level. What are your thoughts on the sort of interest from these EFL sides?
I think he's definitely a player that's, more prominent in the Championship, and he's not really going to get much of a chance in the Premier League. I think he's kind of one of them players who's probably top-end Championship, not quite cutting it in the Premier League. Of course, he's not really had the chance to prove himself or anything like that in the top flight. But even when he came in last season, the Scott Parker's chosen wide men were normally Jadon Anthony and Ryan Christie. So he often saw himself coming off the bench and, sometimes made an impact, sometimes he didn't. But he was not much he can do when he's not really starting, unlike when he was at Swansea and Wigan at Championship level. He was always starting for those. So I think he does need to get himself to a club that will offer him that regular game time, whether that's through the middle as a striker or in his natural position as a winger. I'm not sure how difficult it's going to be because obviously they've let Siriki Dembele head off to Besiktas, it seems like. So if that could mean they might be less receptive to Lowe going, they might need him as a backup. But I think if Lowe tries and forces the issue, if he does want that regular game time, then I think there's a lot of Championship clubs that will be willing to offer him that if he's available.
Yeah, like you say, Siriki Dembele does look like he's off to Besiktas if reports are to be believed. But yeah, as we understand it, Watford are leading the race. They're keeping a close eye on Jamal Lowe's situation at AFC Bournemouth. Certainly one to keep tabs on over the coming days. No idea what's happened there. There we go. A few technical issues on this Wednesday afternoon. Right, let's move on to another Football League World exclusive, and that is with regards to Stoke City left-back Morgan Fox. We understand Reading, Swansea and Sunderland are all monitoring the 28-year-old situation at the Bet365 Stadium. Only 10 Championship appearances last season for Morgan Fox. His sort of first team minutes have dwindled ever since Michael O'Neill's arrival. Perhaps hasn't really kicked on ever since his days at Charlton Athletic, where he looked like a real top talent. Ben, let's come to you first. I think for Morgan Fox, a move away is probably what he needs. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's been at Stoke for 2 years now. He's not really ever got that regular game time. I think he's a kind of a solid left back or left-sided centre back in a back three, but doesn't really do anything flash. He does the basics. He can put in a decent cross, but I think he's probably best at left back in a back four. I know he can play in a back three as a kind of left-sided centre back, but I think the three clubs that have been linked right now are playing with kind of wing backs, aren't they? I think your club, Sam Reading, have shifted to a kind of wing back system. Swansea playing it, also Sunderland with Alex Neil opting to go with Sims and Stewart up front. He's normally a 4-2-3-1 man, which would probably suit Fox more. But I think these clubs would probably be looking at Fox as a left-sided centre-back in a back three, and he can probably do a job there, but I can't really see him being a kind of start for many Championship teams, in kind of a back three. I could see him in a top-end League One player at this stage of his career, but I think the clubs that are supposedly in for him, I don't think he'll probably be a starter, like a regular starter at any venue. He'll probably get chances, but I could see him being a half-decent backup option, but I think I definitely agree with the fact that he does need to leave Stoke to potentially get that regular game time, because he's not going to be coming at the Bet365 Stadium. They've been after Matt Clark and to fill that left-sided centre-back role, and obviously they've not got him. I think he's going to Middlesbrough, but I think Fox is slipped down that pecking order, and he does need to get out of Stoke to get them minutes.
Yeah, of them linked clubs then, Toby, are there any that stand out for you that would be an ideal destination for Morgan Fox?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think certainly you sort of looking at the squad list, there do seem to be a few in there who could certainly benefit from Fox's addition. They're a bit short on depth in that position. I'm thinking possibly Sunderland as one that could be worth going to. Sort of, as I say, looking at their options, you've maybe only really got sort of the younger options like a Dennis Sirkin or maybe even a Niall Huggins when he comes back from injury to come into that role. So certainly in that respect, it could be a good opportunity for Fox to sort of come in and with the experience he has, be that sort of source of insight and guidance for them, and obviously someone who has still got plenty of time to come in and as I say, do a part on the pitch as well. So that could potentially be a decent destination for him, especially with the way that Sunderland have started this season as well. It certainly is promising and sort of suggests that they could quite quickly re-establish themselves at this level. So that again gives Fox another chance to really show what he can do in the second tier. So that could be potentially a good destination, in my opinion, for him when sort of considering the clubs that are interested.
Okay, any Stoke fans watching, let us know your thoughts on Morgan Fox's situation. Do you expect him to depart the Bet365 Stadium in the next few days? As we understand it in Football League, on Reading, Swansea and Sunderland have all inquired about his availability. Right, a couple more EFL transfer rumours to run through now. We've got another Football League World exclusive. But we understand that Burnley are going to make a renewed effort to sign Rotherham United midfielder Ben Wiles. Wiles has long been a transfer target for Vincent Kompany. They failed with a couple of bids. We understand the Clarets are looking to launch a fresh move for Wiles between now and the window closing. Ben, we've seen Burnley sign a number of central midfielders in this summer transfer window, the likes of Samuel Bastien and Josh Cullen in particular. Do they need Ben Wiles, in your opinion?
I'm split in two camps on this one. I'm not fully convinced they need him. You know, like you said, they've signed Bastien and Cullen. They've got Josh Brownhill, Jack Cork, and then when Ashley Westwood recovers from his terrible injury from last season, he's there as well. And I think if Vincent Kompany's going to play 4-2-3-1, then he's got Scott Twine who can play in the number 10 as well. But the only reason I could see Kompany potentially going all in for Wiles is if he sees Scott Twine as a left winger when he's fit, you know, cutting in from that left side. He's played there or attacking midfield for MK Dons when he fired in a plethora of goals last season, and potentially Westwood might not come back the same player in that midfield. So that's the only reason I could see Burnley going all out for Wiles, and it will be expensive all the same. You know, if he's one of Rotherham's best players, and I'd assumed he'd want around 4 to 5 million for him. They're not going to be pushovers coming into the Championship. They've shown good form in their opening few games, and they'll want to keep the best players at all costs. I think Burnley, if they really wanted to, could pay the fee that Rotherham want, you know, if it's in the 4 to 5 million range. But I'd guess they're trying to keep it on the kind of low side. I think the bids they have had rejected are in excess of £2 million of add-ons earlier in the summer. So I'm not sure Burnley will stump up the fee that Rotherham really want, and for that reason I can see him staying. Yeah,
we spoke to our Burnley fan pundit, Ben Livingston, about this particular deal, and he didn't seem too enamoured by it. Suggested that a striker and a new centre-back should really be the priority for Burnley before the window closes. But there we go. As we understand it, Burnley are set to make a renewed bid to sign Ben Wiles from Rotherham. Again, another situation to keep tabs on. Right, one more EFL transfer rumour to touch on next. Nottingham Forest are set to make a new offer for Blackpool winger Josh Bowler. He's been a transfer target of Steve Cooper for a number of seasons now. Was interested in him last season, didn't manage to sign him. Fulham have also been credited with an interest in Bowler, who had a fine season last term in the Championship and has sort of continued that form this season under Michael Appleton. Toby, let's come to you then. Bowler, clearly a very, very talented winger, arguably among the best this division has got to offer. Is he good enough for Nottingham Forest in the Premier League? We know how many players Forest have signed this summer, how many options they now have in attack. Would Bowler enhance what they've currently got?
Yeah, as you say, I am slightly surprised at the persistence of Forest here, given, as you say, the options that they've brought in, that sort of attacking midfield area. When you look at who's there, the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White, Jesse Lingard, Emmanuel Dennis can play that sort of role as well. These are not cheap options that Forest have brought in. Obviously, Brennan Johnson has been there for some time as well, so that they're sort of pretty well stacked, I would say, for sort of the first team starting 11 picks in that sort of position, and they put a lot of money into them. So you would certainly think that they will want to get the most on the returns from their investment in those players, which sound like it would be a lot more than what they would be having to pay for Josh Bowler. So it maybe seems like one that would certainly be more done maybe with the view to it as a sort of more cover backup squad player, is how I would maybe expect it to work. Perhaps Forest do, though, feel that, this is another opportunity, obviously, with Josh Bowler now into the final year of his contract at Blackpool. There is perhaps a bit of an opportunity to get him quick here now and sort of make sure they don't miss out on one that they have chased for so long to another team in the not too distant future. And he does become more expensive for them sort of in the future and becomes more unattainable. But on the whole, I just think with what they've got already and sort of the money they have paid for those signings, that it isn't one that I think would happen with the view to Bowler being a first team regular for Forest, which maybe then raises questions about, is that a sort of move that he would want? So I definitely think there's a lot of variables coming into this, and as I say, I would find it a slightly surprising move for Forest to make, given what they have already done and what they have already spent in this window.
Yeah, I'd imagine also from a Blackpool perspective, they will be incredibly keen to keep hold of Josh Bowler between now and September the 1st. He is such an instrumental part of what they're doing at Bloomfield Road. It would be a major blow to lose them. I suppose also from my perspective as well, Forest, the way they set up at the moment, 3-4-1-2, often utilising the wing backs in Harry Toffolo and Nico Williams. Where does Josh Bowler fit in? In my view, he's more of an attacking winger, isn't he? I can't really see him fitting in that wing back position, but we shall see. Well, that's our final look at the EFL transfer rumours. And that is it from the EFL Transfer Zone show here on Football League World TV on this Wednesday afternoon. Ben, Toby, thanks as ever for joining me. Thanks for everyone that tuned in to watch this. If you're watching this on repeat on YouTube, please do stick a like in below this video and subscribe to the channel. We've got another live show coming up tomorrow. We're going to be taking a look at Russell Martin and Swansea City after what's been a somewhat disappointing start to the season for the Swans. So well worth checking that out. That kicks off at 1 o'clock on the channel tomorrow. Next week, we've got to have a lot of these EFL Transfer Zone shows. On deadline day in particular, we're going to look to produce 4 or 5 during the day. So please do stay tuned to Football League World TV on September the 1st on deadline day. We'll have all the latest for you. But between now and our next show tomorrow, we shall see you soon.